Rise Up and Run. Stories of deliverance and transformation through the power of Jesus Christ that allows people to rise up from bondage and run in freedom. I'm your host, Janice. Hi friends, welcome back to the third episode of Rise Up and Run. We are glad that you're listening today. Last week, we shared episode 2, which is the first half of the story of my husband's alcoholism and how our marriage survived that through only the grace of God. So just to catch you up, we've been married 34 almost years, and my husband spent a good 4 or 5 years in the pit of alcoholism. So we just want to continue on here. Now we're looking up to the point of retirement. My husband is retiring from his job in law enforcement. He retired on his 55th birthday in July of 2021. And later that day, I get a phone call that tells me I have breast cancer. Stage 0 breast cancer.
On my retirement date.
And your birthday.
And birthday. How dare you get breast cancer then?
Well, you know, I was waiting. We were waiting for the call, so we knew it was coming. There was one aunt in my whole line that had breast cancer, and she had beat it twice. She was 92. 92. So I thought, well, I really wasn't that worried about it. And Bob was like, well, we'll just have one more thing to celebrate then. And then the call came and said, no, you got stage 0 breast cancer. Thankfully, stage 0. And that's a whole other story about how we found that.
That's for another podcast.
That's for another episode of Rise Up and Run. So at this point, let's talk about the condition of our marriage. What were you thinking? Were you thinking everything's great?
Absolutely not.
You knew?
Oh, yeah. And I didn't care.
Boo.
You know, I mean, I cared about alcohol. I wanted to just drink and drink and drink. And now I'm retired after 35 years of working in law enforcement. I deserve to do whatever I want.
Couch.
Yeah, I don't want to drag it on, but it just progressively got worse. I was just starting to drink in the morning every day. So it was, I knew my health was not good. My mental health was not good. My spiritual health was horrible. Just going through the motions and just kept lying and deceiving and just, But I will say, I had a ladder accident in September of that year. Where
I was so mad at you. And tell them that you weren't drinking, or were you drinking?
No.
Are you coming clean today?
Yeah, so that morning, I think I had the ladder accident like at maybe 9, 10 in the morning. I had not had anything to drink yet that day.
Well, that's good to know, because I think people are like, oh, that dude was drunk.
I was stone sober. I hadn't drank yet that morning. And my thought process as an alcoholic was like, man, if I had been drinking, I probably wouldn't have fallen. I would have done this correctly.
Okay.
So, not true.
So talk about this ladder accident. Let me tell you what I was doing at this time. So I had breast cancer. I had a lumpectomy. I had radiation. And I know my husband feels awful about this. And this is his biggest regret probably at this point, that he wasn't there for me to help me with my cancer. He was like, oh, I'll go to your appointments. But I thought, why would I want that at my appointments? And so I basically had to walk through breast cancer all by myself. And I had friends that offered, but it was, I was so low, so very low. And I remember one day, at that time, okay, I'm going to try to not get emotional here, but at that time, I was a wreck. And if you could have a mental meltdown, I was on my way. I was very close. And I went for a walk. Okay, at that time I was walking around all day long with the heating pad on my shoulders, just shaking. My hands were just shaking the whole time. I was sick. I was on the edge of tears always. And I just thought, I have to get out of this house. So I went to a local lake and just laid on one of the picnic tables. And I was listening to that song by Lauren Daigle, Hold On to Me. And I want to sing a little bit of it, but I probably shouldn't.
You definitely don't want me to sing it.
No. But I remember walking around that lake, and I can tell you on which bend it was, that it was like God saved me all over again. And I described it as like, you see those races, those marathons where the runner has run and run and run, and he's exhausted, and he collapses before the finish line. And then another runner, a comrade, comes alongside him and picks him up and helps him cross the finish line. And that's exactly what I would use to describe how Christ saved me that day. And I said it was just like looking up into his gentle eyes and knowing that he was running it with me and I didn't have to run it by myself anymore. He just reminded me that he was there. And boy, that just shifted the whole thing for me. And I felt strengthened by that and encouraged, and gosh, that I was able to go to his throne of grace and mercy and to lay that burden down, and for him to say, it's not yours to carry anymore, give it to me. That was a game changer for me. So anyway, do you want to jump in and say anything?
Well, just
Yes.
yeah, and our marriage was horrible.
Horrible.
I felt like here's a 33-year marriage that I'm retired. This isn't the way we planned it to be. This wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And I knew that I had a part in that, but I just didn't know how to stop. And then Christmas Eve, 2021, all the kids were here. Well, were they all here?
No.
Okay, Logan and Emmy.
Our son Logan lives in Canada.
So
He hadn't been home in I think 2.5 years because of COVID and other things.
And I got so drunk.
So we were at Christmas Eve service.
Yeah.
And then we came home and you walked by me and I said, are you drinking again? Because I thought, please don't. It's Christmas, And you said, this is when you said, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the night was awful. I remember you sitting at the computer at 2 a.m. saying you're ordering me a Christmas present. And I was... And during this time, our house is big enough that I could go upstairs and basically live upstairs in one of the guest rooms up there. So we were not separated. We were separated physically within the same house. But for sure, mentally, emotionally, all of that stuff, we were separated.
Yeah, you
and had
basically
been.
moved upstairs.
Yeah.
And then I ruined Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That year.
You sure did.
I absolutely did. That was my bottom. I just remember Emmy being home in her room for 2-3 days just crying. I could hear her up there sobbing, and she stayed in her room. And it was such a silent, empty house, and I know that it was because of me.
Did you work that next day? You didn't, right? You didn't work that Christmas day?
No.
Because I remember thinking, I have ruined enough Christmases on my own because I struggle with holidays. Something in my head is telling me that nobody likes me, that I'm doing a horrible job as a mom. And so I have ruined more than one holiday. Let's just put it like that. And I was like, I'm not taking the blame for this because clearly you could feel the tension in the household. And I thought, my kids are all adults. I'm not taking the blame this time. And so I said, are you going to tell them or do you want me to tell them? Oh man. And Bob told him, he said, I drank last night. And I jumped in and said, no, you were drunk last night. And so I spent all of Christmas Day out at the fire pit. Logan was in the basement playing video games. Emmy was in her room crying, and I don't even know where were you?
Well, I was sitting on the couch contemplating what to do. I didn't have an idea what to do. I didn't know. So I started researching rehab facilities. And of course, I'm frugal, so I was like,
yes, we are.
The AA kept popping up on top of the searches.
Because it starts with AA.
Well, that's their. I like their strategy.
Yes, it's effective.
I had never considered AA, and I don't know why, but God put that in my head to go to AA. So I found a local AA meeting, and I went. The next day was Sunday. I went to a Sunday morning meeting, and I can't tell you, I felt like a slug going. I sat outside that door for probably 15 minutes contemplating, should I go in or should I? I was afraid of failing again. I thought, this is the last door. This is the last house on the block, as we say. I mean, there's always jail and the morgue.
Oh, neither of those sound very good.
No. So I went in, and AA is a program of not promotion. It's attraction. That's it. AA is a program of attraction, not promotion. That's why you don't see any AA promotions, because you know what? There's failure and there's relapses and stuff, but it's a program of attraction. And I went in there, and I cannot tell you, from my experience, strength, and hope, that AA has saved my life. From the moment I walked in, I was welcomed. I was around other people that had life experiences just like me. I remember one guy, it was just amazing. It's just like, AA, you're drowning right now and you're trying to save yourself, and AA is throwing you a life raft. You have a life raft here. And I've just come to embrace that. Through that experience, I admitted that day for the first time that I am powerless over alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. I can't control this, and I don't know what the solution is. And it provided a solution to me. And in the book, it's
the big book.
The big book. The steps for me are life, because I did admit that I was powerless over alcohol.
Was that the first time you realized that you were powerless, or did you think?
I thought I could control it.
You really did, up until, because you'd had so much experience.
I'm a strong guy. I can control it. But I came to believe, that God was the power that I needed to take away the obsession of the mind and the cravings and the belief that I can control. I couldn't control it, and that He could restore me to sanity. So. And then I absolutely surrendered and made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. And, it's a work in progress. I've been sober for 2 years and 2 months now. So, let me just read something out of the book, because there's so much in here that it's, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. I wasn't honest with myself, And when I became honest and willing to work the program, and go to any length to stay sober, man, I tell you what, life just gets better and better. If I lose my sobriety, I'll lose everything. I daily tell myself I'm not going to drink today, based on what I've learned in the program. It's a maintenance thing too. Because, I go to meetings a few times a week, but it's also about sharing that recovery with other people and sharing the solution with them, and just the little reminders that I've learned, alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful, right? And there can't be any lurking notion that someday, somehow, I'll be able to have a drink like a normal person again. I proved that when I was sober for 20 years and then had a drink, and and it just went down from there.
Or when you were sober for 4 months.
For 4 months, I never got rid of that lurking notion that I'd be able to drink again.
Right.
Or that I could drink again.
In a healthy way.
In a normal way.
Yeah.
But the big thing is service too, is to be able to share my story to help somebody else. Because you got to give it away. You got to share that if you're struggling with alcohol addiction and things are hopeless or seem hopeless and you just don't care anymore, just talk to somebody. Talk to me. Talk to anybody that you know that has maintained their sobriety, and say, how did you do it? And I'll share my experience with you. I'm not going to say it's going to work for you or not, but I'll share my experience with you. And I can say the book calls it legions of people before us that have followed this path and maintained their sobriety. Speaks volume. You can't deny the evidence of that. Because you have come down to the AA meeting rooms when I've gotten coins, and every person sitting in there started their journey with one day of sobriety.
Yep.
And then started it over with another day of sobriety, and another day, and another day. And the promises in Alcoholics Anonymous for me come true. Life gets better and better. Relationships are restored. Just the hopefulness of life returns, and there's a purpose for that.
I guess from my perspective, I tried to deal with years of being lied to and finding bottles of alcohol in the garage space. And are you drinking? No, I'm not drinking. Your Alka-Seltzer is broken. Did you stop and get beer? No, I didn't, and that just deteriorated our trust and our marriage. And I was not happy with you, mister. And so when that happened on Christmas Day and you said, I'm going to go to AA, I thought, oh, good, sure you will. Like, I had zero faith in you. I did, sorry. And I told him, after our daughter goes back to college, you are going to get out. You need to go find some place to live. And I never, ever thought about divorcing him. We weren't going down that. But we needed to be separate so we could work on things. And trust me when I say that I am not perfect in any stretch. And he has been patient with me for years and years and years on all the things that I deal with. So it's not like he's got all the problems and I don't. But so we were going to separate, not with the idea of divorcing, but with the idea of coming back together when we're healthy, when our trust was rebuilt. Right.
I got sober for me. I got honest with me, and you talk about to thine own self be true. I have to be true to myself, and everything comes after that. So.
I was going to say, too, that, and you'll agree with me, I'm sure, that once you throw it out there about your struggle, man, oh man, people are coming up everywhere saying, you know what, my wife is an alcoholic. What can I do for her? Or I'm drinking too much. He's had so many people call him. Once he opened up and was like, I have a problem with alcohol. They'll call him and be like, hey, I do too. What did you do? What should I do? He has been a solid supporter of his AA group. He chairs meetings. He is always reaching out to people that need him. And I'm so proud of him. Our marriage it took a long time. I would say for sure it took probably close to a good year before I really believed that you were onto something and that I could start trusting you again. And I've always told him, if for some reason you do relapse, it's okay. Obviously I don't want you to, but don't let it get you in such a headspace that you just want to do something crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'm so proud of you. And I'm so thankful that you have worked so hard to get our marriage back in place. And you are like my little hero, buddy.
I'm proud of you too.
Why? What did I do?
Well, okay, so here she's turned 60. She went for a 60-mile bike ride on her 60th birthday.
True.
Okay, the ice bath thing. Y'all saw that video.
My husband didn't do so well in the ice bath.
I'm like, just try giving a cat a bath. I was like, in and out.
It's cold.
It's cold.
It's an ice bath. Were you thinking?
And what else? Oh, you're talking about going skydiving.
I'm talking.
Hey, speaking of skydiving, fun fact. Did you know that you do not need a parachute to go skydiving?
Shut up. Yes, you do.
No, you don't. You need a parachute to go skydiving twice. I'm kidding. Which is
Cal, that is so dumb. That took me a minute. You are hilarious.
Well, on that note, we're getting close to an hour here, and people are probably tuned out already.
Well, this will be 2 episodes, probably.
Oh, will it?
Can we just pray? Do you want me to pray?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
God, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our story. Man, we have dealt with some good, bad, and ugly things, and we just are praying for anyone that's listening where this is just hitting home with them, where they're tired and their marriage or relationships are faltering because of drugs or alcohol. We just want our story to remind people that there is freedom, that you can get out of this, and that God is just waiting so patiently there for you. God, we just pray that you would use our story to minister to others who are crying right now, who are just so lost and so confused and just want something else, want something better. God, would you just continue to work on them and just remind them that there's hope and that there is recovery and you can get out of that pit. And we only got out of that pit because of you, God, and your graciousness and your kindness to us. Thank you, God. Thank you for everything. Amen.